Joining us right now is Representative Todd Rokita from the beautiful, beautiful state of Indiana, and where we have one of our favorite markets there. And he's going to talk to us about this as well as a couple of other issues, too, including his he got an immigration bill called the SLAPP Act. Congressman, thank you for joining us. What was your reaction when you saw this video that they had posted? What did you think? What did you make of that?
Dana, first word that came to my mind was goof and goofy, because that's what that was. I mean, it was silly, and you have to laugh at it so you don't cry. And the reason that we all, as patriots, voters, and taxpayers, Dana, ought to be crying about this is because what's happening here is what we call the rule of man over the rule of law. It's something that way back John Adams talked about, where the reason we're exceptional, the reason we should all be celebrating American exceptionalism with a capital A and capital E, is because one of the foundations of that is that we're all supposed to be treated equally under the law. And here we have socialists, Democrats, everyone else, or not everyone else, but people like that flipping it on its head. And when we're not treated equally under the law is when we lose our exceptionalism. And that is very serious.
And everyone is equal under before the law and under it when it's broken. How in the world is not following established federal, completely constitutional immigration law considered unconstitutional, arbitrary, and capricious? I wrapping my mind around that one, trying to.
Well, and I saw you on Fox News like so many other people did, and you did a great job with it. And one of the reasons I want to talk to you more about that is because you asked the question, why? Why did the judge rule this way? Why did the mayor dance like this? What's really going on here? And for the Democrats, for the socialists, for those types of people who don't appreciate the rule of law, the why is answered by them. They won't admit it, but this is the reason. They want voters. They need voters. Their ideas are so bad, people are leaving them in droves. Their leaders are so atrocious. Taxpayers and voters are leaving them in droves. So now they need to pander to other groups of people in order to try to get voters. And this is part of all that. Of course, illegal alien criminals and illegal aliens themselves are not supposed to be voting, but in some states, in some cities, they can. And ultimately, these kind of folks want these voters in their camp. And so that's what's going on here. As to the judge and to the ruling, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, to your point really quickly, not to interrupt you, but that's where it concerns the census. That's why you have some of these ACLU lawyers fighting so hard to make sure that the census doesn't exclude those who are not here legally or those who are not, voting American citizens, because they are afraid, and they've even admitted it, they're afraid that it could actually reconfigure their allotment of congressional members or their representation in D.C. And that's exactly what this is all about. It's not actually about immigrants, legal or illegal. It's about it's about power in D.C.
Bingo. You're absolutely right. And yes, they admit it. And that's what the elites do. The elites who want to run our lives, think they know better for us than we do, our own lives, will continue to do this. And this is the latest step in it. That mayor wasn't dancing because he was empathetic or to these illegal aliens, or that he was trying to show a softer side. He was dancing because he had a chance at furthering his power and the power of his Socialist Democratic Party.
Right. No, absolutely. Now, your legislation, the SLAPP Act, H.R. 4526, the Stopping Lawless Actions of Politicians, it aims to hold lawless and state local politicians accountable with criminal penalties for working to obstruct federal immigration enforcement efforts. What kind of support are you getting for this?
Well, we have 25 co-sponsors so far, and I need your listeners to call their representative, write in, call in, whatever they need to do. We need to get this, and we want this to be part of the immigration discussion going forward. And if there's going to be a decent bill or a decent product out of this, and that's a big if, but certainly the SLAPP Act ought to be a part of it. That mayor, might as well have been slapping the parents of Kate Steinle in the face while he was dancing around. The SLAPP Act would slap handcuffs on that mayor and others like him. I think Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, I think Jerry Brown, the governor of California, would slap handcuffs on them for violating federal criminal law. It would make them felons. because they're ignoring the law.
Yeah, I mean, we would get charged if we did that. And if we ignored, when you ignore federal law, that's a criminal act. That's what that's called.
Yeah. And there's some might say, well, Todd, we don't really need this because current immigration law calls out aiding and abetting criminal aliens, and there's a criminal aspect to that. But it's also ambiguous. I mean, the Attorney General himself and the Department of Justice have to go and are seeking I believe a court opinion as to whether or not that includes locally elected politicians. The SLAPP Act would just remove all doubt. The SLAPP Act is very specific, and why would I want to rely on a judge, a court like the one we just had in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia case, when we can pass this law and make it part of immigration reform going forward?
And the violators, they could be sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, fine for up to $1 million. Hopefully, that would also mean that they would lose their elected seat, because if you can't follow the law that you swear an oath to uphold, then you shouldn't be in an elected office where you're to serve the people under that law.
Yeah, and state law would control that. So the states are different, but I know in Indiana, when I was Indiana Secretary of State, for example, the fellow who came after me was convicted of a felony, actually, and he, by virtue of state law, lost his seat.
Wow. Well, I so want to see this become law, because, I mean, it's like we have elected officials, like the ones that we're talking about in this video. It's we have to follow laws, but they can skirt laws. And I don't like this double standard towards, people who are, constituents and people who are elected officials. So I really hope that people listen to what you're saying, and that they get a hold of their elected officials and say, you know what, you need to support Congressman Rokita's SLAPP Act, because this has got to stop. So I hope they do that. And please keep us apprised of the, what you need and how this is going to work, and the success of this, because I really would like to see this. This is enough. It's not just Kate Steinle's family. It's Jamil Shaw's family. So many families out there that have been affected by this. And it's just vulgar for them to dance around like that, just to violate federal law. It was vulgar.
Thanks, Dana. Yeah, I mean, fighting this elitism has become the fight of our lives, and we got to keep going. And thank you for being such a leader in it. Some of the co-sponsors that are already on it: Gozer of Arizona, LaMafa, California, Ratcliffe, Tenney, Wilson, Nome, Harris, Norman, and Rogers. Call your representative and let's get them going.
Perfect. Absolutely. Congressman Todd Rokita, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate the fight. Take care.
Thanks, Dana. See ya.